Hey everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Savannah and we're back in Prehistoric Kingdom with a brand new project that I am so very excited about. Now, I actually started building this quite a while ago, but for two reasons. It's taken me quite a while to turn it into a video and release it for you. So let me get to introducing the project first, and then we'll talk about how it came to be and the building process and all that kind of stuff. So this is Bridgeview Park, which is, of course, my brand new Prehistoric Kingdom project. And as you might be able to tell by the thumbnail, it's a very industrial feeling theme. And my idea behind that was to create a park that might have taken over the previous footprint of a prison or an industrial yard or something like that. I got to thinking about if we were going to have a dinosaur park in real life, what would be the most secure way or the best way to go about it, I guess. And prisons is what came to mind because prisons are by definition built to keep people in, to keep them from escaping. And so they already have a lot of security measures and things like that in place that obviously for something like a Tyrannosaurus Rex would need to be beefed up quite a bit because a T-Rex is much more dangerous than your average criminal. So I thought that with a little bit of modification and a little bit of upgrading on the security front, a prison might actually make a good kind of starting place for a dinosaur park. So that's what I'm doing. And then I named it Bridgeview Park, honestly, because Bridgeview kind of sounds like it would be like a prison or like an insane asylum or something like that. I don't know. It just kind of struck me as like the name of a town that a prison would be in, I guess. So I just went with that as Bridgeview Park. It's just meant to be the town in which this park kind of exists in. And obviously in today's video, we're working on the entrance. Now, there still are things that I want to add and adjust to this entrance. Namely, as you'll see later in the video, I get to working on a perimeter fence, but I think that fence needs to be much heftier. I want to create like one of those walkway security fences. I don't really know if they have a specific name, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about. Basically like a big wall that, you know, security officers with guns could walk on and patrol like the border of the park and things like that. But just a much bigger fence wall that a dinosaur couldn't just like plow through, like knock over like the current fence. Like the current fence that's there is good for something like a prison, for something that keeps people in. But of course, we are modifying this to keep in dinosaurs. But that's how I'm kind of going about it, is I'm going to do this series, yes, in episodes, and usually in each episode, we will be adding a new dinosaur or a new animal, but I'm not going to push myself or hold myself to complete things 100% per episode. I'm going to build for a few hours and get some good progress done and then release it for you. So this is very much going to be a working project that I'm going to be making adjustments to previous maybe episode builds and things like that, just depending on where my inspiration is. And that kind of brings me to why this has taken me so long to turn into an actual video for you all. I have, you know, life has gotten in the way of things and I burnt myself out a bit doing life things, doing content things. And I got myself into a mode where all I wanted to do was play video games because that's where this channel started for me, obviously. My love and passion for video games and animals and doing creative things and building pretty things. And I just kind of wanted to get back to that. I wanted to get back to just being able to play without the pressure of creating full-on episodes, or honestly, even doing these voiceovers takes a lot of mental energy from me, and I just didn't have it for a while. So I have been building very much in kind of behind the scenes. So I do have a whole ton of footage that needs to be created into videos. And my hope is to kind of release those slowly throughout the next couple weeks. So that's all. I just needed a break, and I just wanted to be able as well to kind of build ahead of schedule, in the sense that in the past, I have built something, turned it directly into a video, and then released it as soon as I possibly could. However, that meant when life got busy or I lost my inspiration, maybe months would go without a new episode of that project, or I would just lose motivation completely. So in this project, in Bridgeview specifically, I actually already have built about 90% of the next episode, and that's kind of how I want to keep going with it. I want to keep building and having kind of stuff on deck, so to speak, so that I kind of am able to like slow release episodes in a timely manner, hopefully without months in between. Now, that's not a guarantee and it's not an absolute promise. I'm gonna do the best I can, but that's my thought process. I already have started a brand new Planet Zoo series. I've already started a new Jurassic World Evolution 2 series. So I've been playing quite a lot of video games, kind of behind the scenes and off camera, so to speak, in the sense that I haven't been turning them into videos right away. But this build that we are doing for the entrance is based off of what would be obviously the entrance, I guess, to the prison, with some modifications. So I liked the idea of this kind of archway building that you walk underneath. Seemed pretty secure to me. In order to, really keep that safe, you have to go through this little kind of archway, perfect for tickets and things like that. I'm obviously making this out of a lot of brick, a lot of kind of contrasting the white trim with the brick. However, I initially started with this kind of white color as the contrast, and then I decided that it just would look a lot better if I turned everything dark. So as I usually do in my videos, I definitely kept all that in. Even though it doesn't make it to the final product, I want to keep in my entire build process because I never know what's going to inspire you. Maybe this kind of white and brick color palette is good for a project that you want to work on. So I do end up turning all of that to a dark color so that it kind of just, I don't know, it looks a lot more prison-y, I guess, if that's a new adjective that we can use. So I really do like the kind of darker color a bit better. Now, one more thing that I do want to mention to you as we are putting on some details and decals of this building here, I actually started a whole new project in a second channel. I get many comments asking, this build goes so fast, it's hard to kind of keep up, and that's really just the nature of a speed build, right? I don't really have any desire to talk over a 3-hour video, which I think is what this build was. I think it was 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that. I can't do that. That's way too long of a talking video to give you a real time or even a double time, an hour and a half or so. It's still a really, really long video to talk over. However, I obviously still have the footage, and I wanted to be able to release that for you, for those of you that are interested. So Simply Savannah Unwind is the name of my new channel, which will focus on long play gameplay videos with no commentary. It's basically just going to be game sounds and music. So you'll hear the sounds of me placing objects, moving things around with the Prehistoric Kingdom soundtrack in the background. And if you want to put that on while you're doing chores or studying or falling asleep, whatever you want to do with just some background music and gameplay on the TV or the computer, you are welcome to do that. So head on over there and check out this video, which is over there on the channel or will be very soon. I actually completed that video before I did this one. So my plan is to release that one on the Unwind channel right after this one, or maybe at the same time. I haven't quite decided yet, but that's where it'll be. And so you'll be able to watch my real-time build progress if you are interested in seeing exactly how I kind of put this stuff together and how I look through the menu and things like that. Again, it's like a 2 hour and 45 minute video, so a good amount of time if you are doing something like house chores or studying or things like that. Also on that channel, I will do the same thing with any Planet Zoo or Jurassic World Evolution 2 content that I create. Any sort of speed build is also going to be like a, slow build over there. also in addition to like a Stardew Valley playthrough is what I've started as well, where it's literally just a couple hours of Stardew Valley gameplay. No commentary or anything like that, just Stardew Valley game noises and music, which is a wonderfully relaxing kind of music soundtrack. I absolutely love it, but I've been playing a ton of that with the 1.6 update, so that is over there as well. So yeah, if that's your kind of thing, head on over there and check that out. We are almost pretty much done with like the main building here, and I am going through to start like a little parking lot area. Now, this parking lot is probably going to need to be a lot bigger in order to accommodate the amount of guests and things that would show up here, but I haven't quite decided if I actually want to do that or not. Parking lots really aren't the most interesting thing for me to build, and so having some inspiration to do so, I kind of wanted just like the hint of a parking lot, right? The reference that there might be somewhere for people to park their cars. But again, nothing is off limits, and I'm never going to say never to anything. So if I, for some reason, get the inspiration to upgrade our parking lot, I may include that in a future episode. However, the very next episode is actually going to be a Brachiosaurus exhibit. So right when you enter, just to the right of the entrance area, I decided that a Brachiosaurus would be kind of a good entrance animal. I know it's, it's obviously a rather big animal and things like that. But I felt like, I don't know, I wanted to build for the Brachiosaurus. I thought about an aviary. I thought about, a smaller animal, something like a, oh, and now I completely forget, Dryosaurus. I was like, I completely forget the name of the animal I was thinking of. Something like that, but I really wasn't feeling inspired for that. So this park is going to start off with a big animal right at the entrance in the Brachiosaurus. So I started building kind of a big warehouse, what I thought might have been in the past like a multi-level, maybe a main building for the prison, and it's just been really renovated with a ramp up to a kind of second or third story viewing platform for them. And obviously you see that in the second episode that comes out. But that was kind of my thought process for which animal I wanted to add first. And then after that, I really don't have a solid idea or plan. I'm kind of just going to look through some reference pictures and see what I see. I am obviously, as always, working off of a reference photo or reference photos for this one. This build, I actually didn't have one solid reference photo. I kind of had a bunch of them in that I had like prison building or prison like entrance, and then I had like secure fences. These are the things that I was Googling to find these reference pictures and just adding a bunch to it. So something like this with like the barbed wire kind of V-shaped fence that I built first, and then this kind of more decorative one here. I thought the decorative one probably was added after the fact, obviously to make it look a little bit less prison-like, a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, putting some plants in between here and things like that. But then on the inside of this is where I do want to put that kind of walkway, secure wall kind of thing, whatever it ends up being called. I'm not quite sure. But inside, because the thought process would be that might have been built afterwards, or maybe it was built at the time that it was a prison, because, I guess in movies or maybe real life, I didn't spend a whole lot of time searching like real prisons and things like that as far as layout and stuff go just yet, of course. But I thought that might be the best addition, as I mentioned, for security purposes. But I did also want to kind of make this building seem a little bit older and not run down. That would be the wrong way to describe it, because I don't think that it's dilapidated or falling apart or anything like that, but it's obviously got some cracks and vines growing up it, and it's not perfect, it's not pristine, it is an older building. So I kind of wanted to add a few of those decals and details around as well. And as you can see, we kind of skipped. I added some mulch down as a planter, and then I was thinking, like, what in the heck would be in front of a prison building? And I don't know if this would have been there when it was a prison, but it's there now, just as a form of public transport. It's a bus stop or just kind of a seating area. my intention was for it to be a bus stop. Many parks, theme parks, zoos, things like that do have bus stops right outside, just for sake of convenience, obviously, for public transportation. So I'm making this way too complicated, kind of pergola shade structure thing. The fact that we can resize things in Prehistoric Kingdom really does like open up the doors to so much possibility. Like so many little details can be created because you can resize things. And for case in point, these little tiny connectors in between that make kind of this like brick pattern on the shade structure is only possible because I can resize those poles. This is basically made out of all the same piece besides the main support thingies, technical term right there. But I just rescaled it a bunch of times, moved it all around. This actually took me quite a while because it was kind of a pain in the butt to resize everything, but I'm happy with how it turned out and how kind of detailed it is, and it casts a cool shadow on the ground, which is really all I was kind of going for. But yeah, this is going to be like a little cover for a bus stop. And so I just kind of wanted to include that so people have an alternate way to get to Bridgeview Park. While we are finishing up that, I do want to address the fact that I have many unfinished projects in many games, and I kind of feel as though I've kind of overextended myself. And so going forward, Bridgeview Park is going to be the main Prehistoric Kingdom project that I work in, just so I don't overwhelm myself again. So likely you are really only going to see Bridgeview Park episodes as far as Prehistoric Kingdom content in the form of speed builds and creative builds, or creative videos. I still will obviously cover all their dev diaries and updates and things like that. But as far as any of the other projects that I had going on, I'm unfortunately going to put them on the back burner for now. Not to say that I will never return to them, but right now I just need to kind of hold back just a little bit, or pull back just a little bit, so that I am able to get this stuff out for you all and create kind of manageable goals for myself. For those of you that don't know, I do work full-time. I am a zookeeper in real life, and it's exhausting. It takes a lot of my mental energy, a lot of my physical energy, and many days I come home from work and I just really don't want to sit on the computer anymore, or play or anything like that. I kind of have other things to do. I also have pets at my own house and my own life and things like that. So I'm just trying to kind of like downsize, I guess, for lack of a better term, while still creating content and releasing it. Obviously, this is a hobby for me, and I want it to stay that way, and that I want it to stay a hobby. I want it to stay entertaining for me and enjoyable for me. So kind of having to pull back just a little bit. I do intend to finish our Spinosaurus build. The Spinosaurus build is coming out in 2 parts. The first part released quite a while ago, and then the second part I still need to finish building, but I do have every intention of finishing that. I'm actually about 75% of the way done with that. So if you're interested in seeing the first part and the second part when it comes out, go ahead and check that out. It is on the channel. You can find it on the Prehistoric Kingdom like speed build playlist, I think is what I called it, something like that. I don't know. We're working on the parking lot now, just doing these kind of planters as what the heck are those things called? I never remember what they're called, and you all have told me like probably 1,000 times. They're the things that keep cars from driving out of the parking lot and into like the building. So I'm using these as that, as a way to kind of keep cars out, I guess. And there is a word for them, and I always forget. And I actually included them in my brand new Planet Zoo project as well. And I'm probably not going to remember what they're called in that either. Now, you may notice as well, and this just came to mind, I kind of build in a pretty sporadic kind of build style, I guess, or order. I really don't complete things really almost ever, and I kind of bounce around, and it's mostly because I build to certain like screenshot views. You'll see me go down with the camera a lot to like the guest view and look at certain angles and kind of snapshots of what the park is looking like. And then I really kind of just build that like frame. And this is partly because I do make content, but partly because I want it to look good from the guest perspective. And when you're like flying all high up above everything, it kind of changes the way that you're looking at things. So I definitely try to get down on the guest view more often than not so that I can just see what they're seeing and make it pretty from that perspective. But that also leads me to, like, for example, here, we're finishing up the back of this building because I created the entire front of it and then I didn't do anything as far as the back of it goes. I'll build part of a fence and then jump over to the parking lot, you know, things like that, and just kind of build what I feel inspired to at the same time, or at that time, excuse me. And I just kind of get bored with some things every once in a while, so I do have to keep going on different things. When the building gets really repetitive is when my mind starts to get a little bored. So when I'm doing things over and over again, like, you know, placing windows like this, I placed some of them and now I'm placing the rest of them. Or when it comes to landscaping and I'm placing a bunch of the same trees or plants or anything like that all over the place, my mind does tend to get bored, so I have to cater to that. I have to build in a style that keeps me entertained. Now, I do add this little aviary back here, and I don't do any sort of decorating for it just yet, but I did want to have it as like an entrance animal. As I kind of mentioned before, I didn't want it to be like its very own episode, so I'm thinking I may just kind of build on this as I kind of feel inspired to. I did like how you can kind of see it from the front, though. It kind of peeks over that lower area of the building, and I'm a huge fan of that. I really do like it in the position that it's in. So I may keep the surrounding, or I might actually make it a null aviary and kind of build my own casing for it and just make it slightly taller so that that effect is kind of magnified a little bit and you can really see the aviary from the front as kind of like a little teaser. But that is actually, I totally forgot to mention, that's another reason why I kind of wanted to add the Brachiosaurus as one of the first animals towards the entrance, because they're so tall, right? And I thought it would be so cool as you're walking in from the parking lot through the entrance, if you could just see like their heads peeking over everything, basically, as like a little teaser to what's inside the park. I thought that would be a really cool effect. And it's turning out really well, so I'm excited about that. But that's another reason why I wanted to add them at the very beginning of the park. In an effort to be as detailed as possible, I am adding things like gutters, and you saw me add the cracks and things like that. I'm trying to push myself in all of my builds to think about the little things that a building would actually have. And things like gutters or things like cracks, or, you know, they're not completely clean, like smudges and dirt and areas of wear and stuff like that. So I'm just going through and adding some more detailing as far as that goes. I don't know what this pipe would be, but it looks cool, so I added it. But stuff like that, just as like, you know, so it's not just flat walls and windows, that there's a little bit of detail and interest and stuff like that in the build. And it goes a long way to give your eyes a lot to look at, and it makes a build look just that much more finished, I guess, in my opinion. Now here with these kind of chimney stacks, I didn't really like how uniform and square they were. It is really difficult, especially with this pattern, the brick pattern that I'm using, because I'm really not able to tilt these walls at all, because then it would make the brick pattern not level. But I decided to try to make these tapered a little bit. So obviously there's some pieces in the corner that you can see I'm kind of fiddling with to see if I can make it look any better. And I probably could make it look just a little better, but it was good enough in my opinion. And the effect in, you know, how they turned out and the difference between just the uniform square chimneys, I think was worth it. So I went ahead and left them like that. I think it makes them look just a little bit more realistic, a little bit more like I tried. And then adding, you know, some air conditioning and some vents and just more around. You can see I keep going back to the front. That's basically where I'm going to be taking my screenshot for the thumbnail. So I'm trying to make it look as pretty from that perspective as possible. And then just more vines, more cracks, more details, more plants, things like that. I wanted the front to look not like unruly and unmanicured, but a little bit less like perfect, I guess. So not plants like in a line and, you know, things like that, or like lots of flowers or heavily manicured kind of areas. So I just ended up using like grass and a couple trees and the ferns around. I may potentially add some more depending on how it goes. But here I think is the final thing I'm working on. And this is our kind of parking lot hint. It really probably is not built to scale in the sense that I'm not quite sure how big cars are in comparison to the people and things like that in this universe. But I'm just adding the idea that there are places for people to park. I'm going to add some planters in the middle of it to make it feel pretty, because obviously everything needs a plant or 5 so that it looks beautiful. These raised planter beds are a good kind of separator as the cars would park up against them and things like that. And, you know, then on the other side is actually just like a road that, cars or the bus really would drive through there. And yeah, there's really not much else to say other than it's a parking lot, and I like it, I guess. It's not really that interesting, but I think it's pretty. We're gonna get into some end kind of cinematics and screenshots here basically right now in a couple more seconds. So I really do hope you enjoyed. Of course, if you are enjoying the content and you want to see more, best way to let me know is to leave a like and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content. Comment below. Any feedback, questions, or suggestions are always welcome. And I will talk at you in the next video. Bye!